no problem.
Oh, so we're looking at this, right, okay.
So we are back with Tony Palmer, and he's agreed to give us a few more minutes to finish up our discussion. First of all, I want to recognize that tomorrow would have been the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Leonard Cohen, so we're very fortunate to have this here today, and he was very popular and he chose us, so we're very, very happy. So again, we're here with Tony Palmer. He did Bird on a Wire, but what I'd like to talk to you very briefly about now is, again, the creative process of both the artist and of how you see history through the lens of these individuals and their accomplishments, because you do, in what you choose to shoot and choose of all those reels of film that you did, even for Leonard Cohen years ago, you're helping to shape a person's history, and with it, creating a capsule in time.
Well, I wouldn't put it anything as grand as that.
You're very modest.
No, I'm absolutely matter of fact. I mean, my job is to celebrate and understand the creative artists that I'm dealing with, whether it's a composer or a ballet dancer or a poet or a playwright or whatever it is, but to try and see what it is that they wanted to say against the political and social background that we find them in. So, for example, the film I made with and about Maria Callas, I mean, it's not a film about an opera singer who happens to be a woman in trouble. It's a film about a woman who's a hell of a mess. Oh, and by the way, she's also an opera singer. Likewise, film about Margot Fonteyn, which we referred to earlier. I mean, it always puzzled me, which is why I wanted to make the film, that arguably the most famous lady dancer of the second part of the 20th century died in poverty. Died in a mud hut with a corrugated iron roof, which had no telephone, no electricity, no running water, nothing. And she actually had cancer, but she was living off cornflakes. You know, how the hell did that happen? And why did it happen? And that's what I wanted to make the film about. So I'm interested in people's, in the dilemmas that creative artists find themselves in.
As we all find ourselves in.
As we all find it, we're no different, except they have the ability to translate all of our common experiences into something which has universal significance. So I'm not shaping their history in any way whatsoever. I'm simply trying to find out what made them tick and why they did what they did and the effect of what they did. And that's a totally different thing. I mean, my job, partly I'm a propagandist on their behalf, and partly I'm just a journalist. I mean, I'm just following them. I'm a parasite, really. I mean, I don't create anything new. I simply try and delineate what it is that they are doing. You know, for example, I mean, take an even bigger example. I made a famous film about Shostakovich with Ben Kingsley as Shostakovich, a feature film. The whole point of that was to try and understand what the Soviet Union in the 30s and 40s was really like. And that was a struggle, because when we made the film, the Soviet Union still existed. And, you know, the possibilities of, well, we weren't allowed to film there. No way. But to try and understand the dramas and the traumas that Shostakovich had gone through and the price he paid in order to write what he did. And of course, the significance of Shostakovich in the end is that, I mean, if you wrote a poem which said Stalin, bad man, Stalin can read that, you know, out, bang, we're going to kill you. If you write a tune which says that, it's awfully hard to prove. So that was one of the keys to Shostakovich. What was it he was trying to say? Now, at a time when, in the Soviet Union, in that period, when the whole of history was rewritten by the Communist Party to present their point of view, if you really want to know what it was like to be alive and well or not even well, alive in Russia in the 1920s and 30s and 40s and 50s, the most eloquent voice describing it is that of Shostakovich. So we know forever, because of what Shostakovich wrote, what that moment of history, that appalling moment of history was like. So my job is simply to describe it and to serve the artist. I'm not...
Well, that's like saying you're a simple old age pensioner.
Well, no, that's true. It's a fact. I mean, I'm just...
Well, but five of us could see the same thing, an accident or whatever.
Yeah.
And we will tell it in a different way, which really talks about the journalist, the artist, the musician, the writer as the storyteller. So you definitely told wonderful stories.
Well, maybe I'm just a better storyteller than other people, but I mean, essentially that's what is going on. I'm just describing what I see. It's very straightforward.
So what do you, from your body of 120 plus films and the operas that you've conducted and the ballets that you've seen, so where do you think we are going with all of this? How do you see your work as a body?
I don't, and for the most part, I never watch it. I mean, it's something that you do and you move on to the next one. And I mean, otherwise you'd be endlessly revising what you did, and I mean, there's no end to that sequence, as it were. Once you start fiddling, you may as well give up. But I just draw the line and say, this is the best I can do. I'm trying to describe what Shostakovich was like. I mean, that was a drama, so I had the advantage of a script. But I'm trying to understand the music that he wrote and what he was trying to tell us. And it's my job to try and figure that out. And then, without telling the audience what to think, providing the evidence for the audience in a clear way as possible, so the audience can make up its own mind.
Right, but you were really one of the forerunners of the concept of the celebrity video in terms of the Beatles and all the other musicians.
Yeah, but you see, the films I made with the Beatles, I mean, I don't think they would look upon them as celebrity videos, because I mean, I was trying to understand, why was this music so special?
I still remember when they flew over my school to land in JFK to perform at the Ed Sullivan Show. I guess I'm dating myself, but...
Well, I mean, I think I mean, I'm not interested in celebrity. That is meaningless to me, especially in 2017, where, there are zillions of celebrity who are only famous because they want to be famous, of whom the unspeakable Kardashians are the perfect example. I mean, they haven't a single creative ounce in their bodies. They've done nothing original whatsoever. They trash our televisions with their garbage, and they demean human communication.
Well, I think I call that lowest common denominator.
Well, but it's celebrity for the sake of being celebrity. Now, I mean, the great creative artists that I've been lucky enough to come across, I mean, they would never, ever think in terms of celebrity at all. Whether you're talking about Paul McCartney, or whether you're talking about Igor Stravinsky, or whether you're talking about Rachmaninoff, or Shostakovich, or Maria Callas, and so on and so on. They're not. The concept of celebrity is a million miles from what they do and what they feel. They're trying to tell us something about the world in which we live, and it's my job as a filmmaker, if I respond to them, or they respond to me if they're alive, it's my job to describe that.
So, but as a conductor of orchestras as well, so do you see all these things as we talked about earlier, as a finished product? No,
I proceed by muddle mostly. No, because I mean, there's a serious answer to a serious question. The point about making any kind of film at all is that it's a journey of exploration. If you knew at the beginning what you discover at the end, what the hell's the point of making a film? You're literally on a voyage of exploration, like exploring Africa, as the great 19th century explorers did, trying to find out things, trying to find out something. And I mean, I think my films, that's without exception the truth. I mean, I usually have no idea even when I start to edit the film, I have no idea what the end point is or what the point of this journey is. I hope I discover it in the process of making the film, and that's what I hope resonates with other people. But it is a voyage, it's a journey of exploration. That's the point about making a film. It's not to celebrate, certainly not to celebrate celebrity, and it's certainly not to celebrate achievement, and it's certainly not to celebrate anything other than what makes this person tick. That's difficult enough.
So if someone were making a film about you, what would they say makes you tick with your right brain and your left brain? And the tremendous variety.
I think they'd throw in the sponge fairly early on because there's not much there to discover.
So what advice would you give to young filmmakers?
Do something sensible with your life. Don't waste your time trying to imagine that you're making great creative art, because you're not, for the most part. And if you get past that hurdle, then the only thing that's important about any film, any creative work, is content. Style is irrelevant. Get rid of all traces of style. Nobody's interested in how clever you are with the editing or the camera work or nothing. What people are interested in is what we've had in this festival, which is extraordinary, is one amazing story after another. And the simpler the telling of the story, the more effective and the more powerful it is.
So what you're basically saying is it's the power of one, that people could relate to one person's
Yes, it's the
story.
power of the story. It's a story. I mean, I saw an incredibly moving film today about a boy with no arms and no legs. I mean, I was in tears most of the time. And it was just very simple. Just followed this little boy on his journey. But you learnt about the political background, you learnt about the social background, you learnt about the difficulties if you're a Palestinian of having to go to an Israeli hospital and so on and so on. But in the end, it was just focused on this one magical little boy who somehow is triumphing against all the odds. It's a story, well told, simply told, no flashy camera work, no flashy editing, no celebrities, nothing. No dreadful interviewer, no dreadful a dolly bird trying to tell you what to think. Just let the story quietly speak on its own. Huge film, huge film.
So are you officially retired, or do you still have some more ideas or commissions?
I've got thousands of ideas. It's a question of whether I really want to do them or not. When I see how people like the Kardashians and others demean the medium that I think is incredibly important. I mean, I think it's one of the most important inventions of the 20th century, television, because it allows us a window on the world. And that's, in the end, what's important.
Well, I really want to thank you again.
That's right. It's a pleasure.
It really has been a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you very much.
And thank you again to all of you who will be watching. This time it's not live, so we'll be putting this up on YouTube. And again, if you're interested to learn more, www.tonypalmer.org. And if you're interested in his DVDs, then it's www.tonypalmer.dvd.com.
Is it finished already?
And I'm just going to show you a copy of the DVD. Can you explain the significance of the cover?
It's the famous dove of Picasso, blue dove of Picasso. We got special permission to use it. It was given to us. And I just thought bird in the wire, that's a much more extraordinary image than just a photograph of Leonard, which you see on the back, looking gloomy. But the bird in the wire somehow incorporates hope and aspiration and magic. And it's a great drawing because it's only one line.
We actually had this exhibit, we had a Picasso exhibit at the art gallery here. And
you had the bird? No, you didn't have the bird.
So they had him drawing the bird on the glass.
Yeah. That's in the famous film.
Yes, which was really wonderful.
Yeah.
And there's not just one DVD in there. In addition to Bird on a Wire, if you're a real Leonard Cohen fan.
No, even if you're not.
And even if you're not.
The second little film is absolutely charming, 30 minutes of his home movies, of him as a little boy, a baby, with his
Riding
sister.
his tricycle.
Yeah, with his sister, with his dad, his mum, and so on. It's just, I think it's
Well,
charming.
it brings him, especially now that he's gone and this is the 1-year anniversary,
Yeah.
this is a perfect way to remember Leonard Cohen as he was to many of us and to a whole new generation that's going to discover him after his death. So
Good.
we're really happy.
I'm off to get something
Thank
to eat.
you.